Hi, Romans here and welcome to another music review. I review every album from a viewpoint of a musician, as I am a singer, songwriter and a bass player for my own group Jakobe. And last year we have released our debut album called Pursuits in Life. What makes it unique is that it's a pretty heavy prog rock without guitars. Instead you have drums, bass, saxophone and keyboards. You can check out two of our music videos on my YouTube channel. We're building our own monument, Fake the New Kind of Beauty, and also a studio live take of A Way Till Pose.
Open your eyes and take a look at our society. We wanna rise despite our decay of morality. How many more signs do we need?
And in the description of all these videos you will find all the information about where is the record available. It's available on all digital platforms like Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, iTunes, Amazon, Bandcamp, but also in this digipack version of a CD with a very beautifully illustrated 20 pages long booklet. So in case you want one, all you need to do is contact me via an email, on Facebook or on Instagram, or you can get me through Bandcamp. And today I'm going to review the debut album from Blind Guardian and the Twilight Orchestra, The Legacy of the Darklands.
Music review. Music review.
Blind Guardian are a German power metal, speed metal band, and in my opinion they're one of the most distinctive in the genre, mainly because of their fantasy / Lord of the Rings inspired lyricism, but also because of the classical music influences. Like for example, one of their most signature songs, the Bard song, could have been easily written in like the 17th century. I've listened to their first two albums, I think, and even the one with the Bard song, but it's been like 12-13 years ago, and there's just so much music out there that somehow I never got back to their music, but I was planning to do so for many years. So I took this new album as a sort of opportunity to go back and rediscover their music. This is one of the most ambitious records I've actually ever heard about, and it's definitely one of the most unique records in the last couple of years, mainly because it's basically recorded by an orchestra. Now, the combination of metal and orchestra is not really something new, because there are many, even some really big bands that heavily rely on the orchestral arrangements or on having an actual orchestra playing underneath their bands. For example, Nightwish, Rhapsody of Fire, even Avantasia on their last couple of records. And there are even many bands that recorded live albums with an orchestra playing with them to give their music a different or new vibe, like Metallica or Alter Bridge. But what makes this album really stand apart is that there's no band playing over the orchestra. Apart from Hansi Kirsch, who sings on this album, I guess the only other role of Blind Guardian was the songwriting or composition, but they, if I'm correct, they don't actually play on the album. That's why this can be in a way seen as a debut album of Blind Guardian featuring the Twilight Orchestra. It came out more than 2 weeks ago, and as of now I've heard it 7 times, so let's talk about this guy. The album opens up with 1619 Overture, which is like an intro. It has an ambient beginning and it sets the mood for the epic we're about to experience. And apart from certain similarities with Nightwish and Rhapsody of Fire, and it does remind me a lot of these artists because of the orchestra, it also reminds me of some of those old soundtracks for like fantasy RPG games, most notably Baldur's Gate. After this we hear a short story interlude called The Gathering, and there are actually 11 more of these on the album, and they appear between all of the longer tracks to sort of move the story forward, and they usually comprise of dialogues or monologues by various characters and various voice actors whose English is very Shakespearean, so it even more emphasizes that old school classical vibe.
I was promised truth, but our league is broken.
Your passion for these earth creepers, it is beyond compare.
The first song that we actually hear on the album is the third one, War Feeds War, and the orchestra sounds really big. At no point throughout the whole running time I missed the band. There is really great chorus in this song. though I'm not sure if I should call it a chorus because we hear it only once, even though most people would probably classify this album as a classical orchestra music, it's very progressive in its core and in its composition because there is kind of like no fixed structure you can follow. It always changes and evolves unpredictably. I like the ending of the track, which proves that you can be really metal even with just an orchestra. Dark clouds rising is slightly more classical sounding, like from the Middle Ages. I like the bright chorus.
Feel dark clouds rising from the fields of misery. This road goes on forevermore. This road goes on forever.
At times it has that musical character of like Meatloaf. We actually hear the chorus twice here, and there are a few other tracks where certain parts are repeated, but it's still quite challenging in that there are still quite a lot of different parts. In the Underworld is a darker song, and there is this one really epic moment.
You may speak again. You've crossed the line. There's no return unless of the underworld. Over there we're all.
And there are many moments like that on the album where you sort of expect it to go all bombastic, but it remains just a little glimpse. And this makes the album more interesting, but again, more difficult to remember. I also like that interesting melody towards the end and those badass orchestral riffs. The Great Ordeal has almost Christmas-like atmosphere. And there is this one part repeated twice where it kind of sounds like orchestral AOR. Like you had, I don't know, Journey or Foreigner having their song presented or performed by an orchestra.
No time for regrets. You just have to realize our brotherhood of men will come to heal these men.
In the Red Dwarf's Tower is again pretty progressive in its composition, and there is this one part where I just kind of ask myself, can you get any more metal than that?
I try not to breathe. It's not on me to say, for I will sit here in my tower. I don't really care for the fear that there will be a bitter end.
Some of the epic moments are also in the track Treason.
For they cannot cross the border. Free will we shall be there. Born to lose, this is what we are. The intruder is near.
Point of No Return is slightly more musical at the beginning, and I also like some of those more laid-back, low-key moments on the record.
My intention's good, unleash the beast. Hurry up, at least I'm trying. My mind tends to slip away. Such wisdom and an atmosphere.
We also have here orchestral pentatonic riffs that work really great, and I personally wish that there were more of these on the album. Some of the biggest moments on the album are in the song Nephilim.
It's the twist of fate again. Nephilim with me when the fire comes down. Angels fly away.
Harvester of Souls is another very musical composition with many different parts and not really any memorable hook, maybe with the exception of the chorus, this is one of those harder to grasp kind of songs. This storm reminds me a little bit of Avantasia.
This storm will change it all. A twisted constellation. Behold the queen and the prince of the Lord.
And then the final track, Beyond the Wall, is like this big epic ending of the tale. But it's similar to Harvester of Souls in that there are many different parts and it's not really that easy to remember.
Beyond the wall transcend, beyond the wall defend, beyond the wall they stand, beyond the wall they're dead. Now take a look at yourself, reunite with your brother.
I do have to appreciate Hansi Kursch, who is a fantastic singer and performer, and it's basically his performance that's carrying the album effortlessly. The orchestra sounds really big, and as I've mentioned already, at no point I felt like it needed an actual band playing over the top of it. I do have to be a bit critical though. The album is a bit too long for my taste, with the running time over 75 minutes, and there are moments where I felt like the album overstayed its welcome, especially when you get to like the second half. The songs will just kind of blend together, and there are many of those really big and epic moments on the record, but personally I would make the record shorter and pack it with more of those moments, because at certain times I just felt like the music was playing but it wasn't really getting anywhere. This album is, however, extremely impressive, and also because of many other metal bands combining their music with the orchestra, this music sounds both familiar but very unique at the same time, because quite honestly I don't think I've ever heard a record where there would be just an orchestra playing and there would be a metal singer singing over it. Have you heard this album already? You can let me know in the comment section below whether you agreed or disagreed with me. If you're a Blind Guardian fan, you can let me know how well does it compare to their other albums, maybe which one is your favorite one, or which records should I listen to next. You can follow me on Facebook or on Instagram. You can find links to both in the description of this video below. If you like this review, don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. You can check out my own original music, my live performances, my worst to best series, and quite a lot of other reviews as well. Thanks a lot for watching.